I've been waiting. Sunshine, why you playing? With my head on the time, you go way out of line.
Hey, it's your girl Serene. Welcome back to my channel. And if it's your first time here, welcome to my channel. Thanks for visiting and come back here. Please don't forget to subscribe, like, if you feel the need, comment, and share. And don't forget to hit the notification bell on your way out to be notified every time I upload a video. So today will be day 5 of the Edgecomb trial. And I will periodically be turning my head like I just did, because they just sent a notice that the verdict is actually in when I decided to start this video. So when the jury come in, I'm gonna have to pause y'all for a second to get the verdict. But let me explain what has happened so far. So for day 5, which would have been yesterday, Tuesday, and then today is Wednesday, which would be day 6. Day 5, Mr. Theodore Edgecomb himself took the stand to testify. And a self-defense expert, the same one that testified on behalf of Cal Rittenhouse, testified on the behalf of Theodore Edgecomb. Now, the Theodore Edgecomb story of what happened is when he decided to go get frozen yogurt for him and his daughter, he was on his way there, changed his mind, turned around to go back to the place to wait for their sushi for dinner. And upon this going back to get sushi for dinner is when he was hit from the side by the Clearman's car. He said he was hit. The car hit his leg on the side hit his leg and the handlebar, knocking him over into a parked car that was on the other side of him. And the husband, Mr. Clearman, who was killed, he yelled out, if you don't know how to drive, get the F out the way, you know, the N-word that us black folks do not like. And that's when he called him that. He said another person witnessed this, asked him if he was okay. He said, yeah, he was okay. But he said it did bring up a memory of another time he was actually hit by a car on his bike and just left there like he was in this incident. So when he decided to get on his bike and ride up to the car, he said, man, you was talking to me? And that's when he said, yes, I was talking to you, N-word again. And that's when he punched him. He was mad. He admitted that. And he punched him. At this point, that's when he rode off on his bike. And like I said, it is video from this point. The car takes off behind him. He said that as he's riding his bike, that he can hear the car behind him, and Mr. Clearman is yelling at him out of his car window while they're driving behind him. Even after he turned the corner, he said he can hear where the engine revved up, which is where you see him trying to hurry up to get on the sidewalk to get out of her way, because at this point she almost hits him again. And if you see this in the video, and he hops onto the sidewalk with the bike, almost fell off the bike, kept going. Apparently Mr. Clearman is still yelling at him at this point, hops out the car, and this is when he ran up to catch up with him, got up to his face. He said he took one large step and then a lunging mood, and that's when the gun went off and shot him. And he said he was shocked himself that the gun had went off. Like, he he didn't plan to do it. It just happened, basically. He felt threatened because he also said when the second car pulled up behind the Clearman's car and was sitting there, which is the first gentleman that would testify that was arrested. Yeah, him. He was sitting behind the car, but he never got out the car. But he was sitting behind the car. In his car, he said he wasn't sure if it was like a caravan thing and they was with him and they was all going to get out and attack him or what. At this point, he was scared. He didn't know what was going to happen. So he was paying attention to the Clearman's car because Mrs. Clearman is still in that car. And then the car behind their car that no one got out of yet is just sitting behind her. So he didn't know if they was with them or not. And then Mr. Clearman, who's literally charging after him. Now, he did say before he got all the way up on him, he told him to stop. And he said he did have the gun in his hand down at his side. And he told him to stop. He said he heard Mrs. Clearman yell out the window that he had a gun. He believed when he dived at him that he was diving to try to take his gun from him. That's what Mr. Theodore Edgecomb was saying in his testimony. He also stated in his testimony that he admitted, that he went on a run. He also told him where he threw the gun in the river, I think like 2 states away or whatever, before he got to Kentucky, and or it might have been 2 cities away. Might not have been 2 states. It might have been 2 cities. I ain't sure. But he told him what he did with the gun. That he threw it in the river. And what river? They, he also, I'm sorry. I told y'all I'm be making sure I don't miss this verdict. Because the verdict is in. Anywho, he also stated he really wished this never happened. He also said one thing he said that kind of stuck with me too out of all the testimony he gave was he wished he would have just accepted being called the N-word, a nigger, and went on about his business that day instead of getting mad and hitting Mr. Clearman and then him resulting in him being chased or whatever. He said he wished he would have just accepted it and never did nothing about it. He said he wished the whole thing just never happened. He did state these things. So the expert testified about the hindsight. Basically, he was testifying. Oh, I forgot an important part. Mr. Edgecomb also stated that he thought Mr. Clearman did have something in his hand, because he said the way he put his hands up from his sides, he thought he had something in his hand, but he wasn't 100% sure what it was in his hand, but he did think he had something in his hand. And so basically the expert was explaining how it was possible for him to not see or even remember if he did see what this gentleman had in his hand when he focused on 2 vehicles over here, scared, thinking they're going to get out and help him jump on him, and then the immediate threat right in front of him that's in attack mode. And we know he was in attack mode because even the prosecution admitted he definitely put his hands up and he was in a boxer stand. According to them, he wasn't lunging, he was in a boxer stand. So either way it go, we know whichever attack way it really happened, because let's face it, there's his truth, and then the honest to God truth that only God knows. So basically he was explaining that when any person is dealing with certain threats, it is very easy to not think or remember other things that could be considered smaller versus the threats, especially when you have many of them. He compared it to a person who is not used to driving in snow, and let's say he hits a patch of ice and he's pushing. He said, you will remember how hard you pushed on that brake. You'll remember what you're about to run into, but you're not going to remember how many cars went by you, how many cars was near you. You're not going to remember none of that. You're going to remember the one object you think you're about to hit and how hard your foot was on that brake trying to stop that car. Period. He said you may not even remember which way you was turning that steering wheel, but you're going to remember how hard you pressed on that brake, and you're going to remember what you was about to hit, what you were afraid that you were about to hit. Anywho, as far as my opinion, the defense rested their case after that. So both rested their case. Before I give you my opinion, I'm gonna finish what all happened. So they both finished their cases. So the next day, which will be today, the same day you're gonna get this video, the prosecution and defense did their closing statements, which, if you ask me, I didn't like neither one. I didn't like the defense closing statement, and I did not like the prosecutor's closing statement. To me, neither one of them really spoke on the things that if I was a juror sitting in that jury box, I would want to hear from neither one, the prosecution or the defense. Neither one of them, to me, the prosecution spent their time basically hammering this, repeatedly saying that he the one that brought the gun, therefore he's the murderer, and that's what he is, a murderer. He also he insists on hollering that he started the fight. I feel like the prosecution spent so much time ignoring and not trying to really explain the first incident that we all know actually happened. There was a first incident. According to her, she swerved around him, missing him nearly, but missing him. According to Mr. Edgecomb, no, you hit me. You literally hit me with your car. This incident happened. And I feel like the prosecution did not expand upon, he did not hit her. He didn't say that. He didn't say that that she did not hit him. He never stated that whatsoever. He acts as though that is not the starting point of them being mad at each other, and it is. He's already been assaulted, being called out his name, and he was hit by a vehicle. The prosecution is really leaving it at a point where they expect us to believe that he really just came out the blue and said, "Oh, you talking to me?" and then punched him when he said yes. Oh, no. To me, this is a Judge Judy moment that if it don't make sense, it's probably not true. And that's how I feel about that. This man is out. We have proof. He literally went out to buy sushi, paid for it, and was waiting for it. That man did not decide to just run up to a random car and punch somebody in the face. I don't believe it. I don't. The defense, to me, spent more time on what the witnesses stated and emphasizing about what the witnesses stated and didn't say or did say. To me, they should have spent more time going through his story of what happened. But they didn't. Instead, they both got on my nerves, to say the least. But the defense spent most of their time emphasizing that he's not a murderer. He's not a cold-blooded killer. None of that at all. Period. I am happy that the defense at least explained that Mr. Edgecomb was diagnosed with ADHD. And I'm happy they brought that up, because I could tell he had to have ADD, ADHD, ADHD, one of those, from the way he was answering the questions from both attorneys, defense and prosecution. I could tell that. So I'm happy he did say that, because not most people who have never dealt with an individual with those would not know the signs of a person with it, or even begin to understand why that matters, which they probably still 100% don't know why that mattered, but that mattered a lot as to why he was answering the questions the way he was and why he was asking the prosecutor to repeat the question. That mattered a lot for a person that knows. I knew, but I don't know if anybody on the jury would know, so that still may not have helped him as much as the defense might have thought it would. But anywho, that is what happened then. So, my opinion. Sorry. My opinion of this case, I believe Mr. Edgecomb's story. And the reason I believe Mr. Edgecomb's story is because it all follow in a make sense sequence. He was mad because he was hit by a car. He was called out his name by a drunk, high man, because that's what he was. And I'm willing to bet some cash his wife was too. But we wouldn't know because the police did not feel the need to test her, even though they found open containers in the vehicle. I also feel that Mr. Edgecomb was wrong, but he rolled up on his bike and asked him, was he calling him, talking to him, you really calling me niggers? And yeah, when he replied, yeah, he was, and probably calling him another one, and I believe he did, because once again, we're dealing with an intoxicated man. I don't know if Mr. Clearman acts like that on a regular when he's not intoxicated, but when a person is intoxicated, they tend to, show their tails. And I think he was that night, he was showing his. And Mr. Edgecomb punched him, which we all saw. I do believe they were chasing him down. That was clear as day to me on the video. I do believe that Mr. Clearman lunged at him, thinking he was going to do whatever it was he wanted to do. Yeah, I believe all of that. I sure do. I feel terrible someone lost their life over something that could have been prevented, because I don't want to say petty, because using that word and still hearing that this word is being used in the manner in which he used it is not petty. It's ridiculous. It's 2022, for crying out loud, and the fact that we still hearing this word and still dealing with it is ridiculous. But I do believe it happened. I do believe the way he described it and said it. I do believe that if he would have turned himself in immediately, it probably would have been better for him. But I also do believe and understand his fear, because he do explain in his testimony when he testified that the reason he did not turn himself in was because he was afraid. At the time that this shooting happened, we were protesting. You already had the George Floyd murder happen and all the other incidents that happened. At this point in time, he said he was scared. He could have been shot by the police. He could have been done harm by some other people. So he just chose to fled. He said at that time in their city, you had one group clashing with a whole nother group, which I believe him. It was a lot of division going on in the States. I'm here in Ohio. We had the same issue. When we started protesting, we even had skinheads who marched down some of the neighborhood streets, calling themselves protesting. Like, it really brung people out of the woodwork. So yeah, I could believe in his state of mind. He's terrified. He don't know who he can trust. He'd rather turn himself in with a lawyer that he knows has his back. Yeah, I feel him on that. And he wanted... Okay, I'm sorry, y'all. I had to stop my sentence because the jury came back with their verdict. So, but let me finish my thought before I give it to you. I do feel that I understood, as I was saying, the scaredness that he felt. And for what the jury came back, I'm thinking they agree with me. But the thing is, okay, so let's get to the verdict. Because now my mind is off of that. I'm sorry, y'all. Because the jury came back after 2 hours and 36 minutes of deliberations. And they came back with a guilty of a lesser charge of first-degree reckless homicide while using a dangerous weapon. So basically the jury believed his story like I did. And basically that's how he got the lesser charge. They did not feel that he killed him on purpose. They did not feel he was a cold-blooded murderer, and that's what I believe, which is why they found him guilty of the first degree with reckless homicide. I do feel he was being a little reckless. He let his fear take over. I think the jury agreed with that for the same reasons I was thinking that, because of the punch. You don't have to accept being called that, but you didn't have to react with the violence. Me personally, I would have just wrote down a tag number to the car and reported it. They hit and run. They hit me and kept going. Period. And I know it's easier said than done when you're in the heat of the moment and you mad and stuff, but people need to really learn to stop, breathe, and focus instead of just allowing the emotions of fear and anger take over them that can cause so much more harm than anything else. But yeah, this definitely proved the jury agreed with me that his story made sense and it was the truth. His story made sense and it was the truth. So by him admitting that he did have training with a gun, which I don't know if I mentioned that he did admit that on the stand also, then you should have handled it better having a gun on you. So yeah, I believe in the state of Wisconsin for that he can get up to like 60 years. The judge already set a date for April 8th to sentence him for however long he's going to end up getting in jail. So I definitely will update y'all with that when that comes around. But that is now the end of the Edgecomb versus Wisconsin trial. So again, down in them comments, honey, let me explain something to y'all. I will always agree to disagree on opinions, but I'm never going to argue with someone about something that I believe in, because it's what I believe. And I said what I said. So if you made it to the end of my video, thank you. And don't forget to subscribe, like, and if you feel the need, leave a comment down there. And don't forget to hit that notification bell to be made aware of every time I upload a video. And I will be updating you guys soon on the federal case for George Floyd's murder of the 3 officers that helped Derek Chauvin, well, ex-officer, kill George Floyd. So that video will be up the day after tomorrow, because you're going to get these today. So the next one will be up tomorrow. Right, tomorrow, not the day after tomorrow, but tomorrow. So, anywho, thank you. And please enjoy the rest of your evenings.
I swear I give you my tomorrow forever.